It started with a delay. Not the kind caused by bad lighting or tired eyes, but something deeper. A woman brushed her teeth and noticed her reflection hesitate when she smiled. Just for a fraction of a second, the face in the mirror did not move. Then it caught up, perfectly synchronized again. She leaned closer, heart thudding, and the reflection leaned too, this time without resistance. She told herself it was stress. Then the mirror blinked. Across the world, similar moments unfolded. A man adjusting his tie saw his reflection straighten it differently, fingers moving with practiced confidence he didn't recognize. A teenager practicing expressions watched the face in the glass grow older around the eyes, lines forming and fading like breath on cold air. The moments were brief, rare, easy to doubt. Until they weren't. Videos began to surface. Not recordings of mirrors, those never worked, but recordings of people reacting. Gasps, tears, laughter that cracked into panic. The mirrors themselves refused documentation. Whatever they were showing was meant only for the person standing in front of them. The rule emerged slowly. Sometimes mirrors showed who you would become. Not always, not predictably. Just sometimes. The future reflections didn't speak. They didn't gesture wildly or warn. They simply existed. Older, scarred, calmer, broken, joyful, unfamiliar. Some looked only a few years ahead. Others decades. Some showed bodies heavier, lighter, wounded, adorned. Some showed eyes that had seen too much, and once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. People began rearranging their homes. Mirrors were covered, turned to walls, removed entirely. Others did the opposite, standing before them for hours, waiting, hoping for another glimpse. Bathrooms became places of dread or obsession. Morning routines fractured as people hesitated before glass, afraid of what might look back. The psychological fallout was immediate. Those who saw peaceful futures relaxed in dangerous ways. Why rush? Why worry? Their reflection had survived. Others saw something worse: addiction, illness, emptiness, and panicked, reshaping their lives overnight. Careers were abandoned. Relationships ended or clung to desperately. A single silent image had more power than any prophecy. Scientists argued endlessly. Was it probability, quantum branches, self-fulfilling hallucination? None of it mattered. The mirrors did not show possibilities. They showed outcomes. People compared notes years later and realized the reflections had been accurate, disturbingly so. Not in detail, but in essence. A woman who saw bitterness aged into it despite her efforts. A man who saw kindness grew into it without understanding how. The mirrors did not show what you would do. They showed what you would become. Children adapted fastest, as always. They treated the future selves like older siblings. Interesting, not terrifying. Some waved. Some asked questions that went unanswered. A few children saw nothing at all, their mirrors stubbornly ordinary. Adults found that far more unsettling than visions of age or ruin. Then came the first refusal. A young woman stared into her mirror one night and saw a future self she hated. Not because she was damaged, but because she was safe, settled, small. She recognized the compromise in her posture, the way her eyes no longer searched. The reflection met her gaze with something like sadness. The woman smashed the mirror. The future did not change. Word spread. Breaking mirrors did nothing. Covering them only delayed the inevitable. The reflection would appear somewhere else. Windows, dark screens, polished metal. You could avoid glass, but you couldn't avoid yourself. And then people noticed something subtle. The future selves were not always watching. Sometimes they looked surprised, sometimes afraid, sometimes proud. It became clear that the future was not a fixed observer. It was being observed back. People began experimenting, not to change the reflection, but to respond to it. When someone smiled at their future self, sometimes the reflection softened. When they stood straighter, the future did too. Not immediately, not reliably, but enough to suggest something dangerous and hopeful. The mirrors were not warnings, they were conversations. An old man, living alone, caught a glimpse of his future one winter morning. The reflection was frail, seated in a sunlit room filled with voices. Grandchildren, friends, noise, life. He had not planned for any of that. He started making calls that day. A woman saw her future self alone and exhausted. She didn't quit her job. She asked for help. Slowly, the panic eased into something else. Responsibility. Seeing the future stripped excuses bare. You couldn't claim ignorance anymore. You couldn't pretend choices were harmless. Every reflection was a quiet question. Is this the person you are becoming on purpose? Years passed. The mirrors appeared less often. Or maybe people learned not to wait for them. The world did not become perfect. People still made terrible choices. But fewer of them were accidental, because once you've locked eyes with who you're going to be, denial becomes impossible. The mirrors had never shown the future to scare people. They showed it so that for the first time, humanity understood something it had always avoided, that the future is not a place you arrive at. It is a version of you that has been watching patiently from the other side of the glass.